You've probably heard about the Epstein Files, right? For years, they've been this huge source of speculation and conspiracy theories. But what are they really? In this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise to show you what's actually in these documents, how they came to light, and the very real consequences of their release.
So what are we really talking about here? I mean, depending on who you ask, the Epstein Files are everything from a secret client list of powerful people to a political hoax cooked up by opponents. The truth, as you're about to see, is way more complex, and in a lot of ways, much more disturbing than any of the rumors.
Okay, so let's just get the basic facts straight. The Epstein Files, it's not one single list. It's a massive collection of evidence. We're talking over 300 gigabytes of data from the FBI's cases against Epstein. It's everything from his personal contact books and flight logs to internal FBI documents and emails. It's a mountain of information.
So yeah, how did this massive, private collection of FBI material end up becoming this huge public obsession? That's what we're tackling first.
You know, getting these files out into the open wasn't simple. The journey from FBI servers to the public eye is this tangled story of political promises, complete turnarounds, and, in the end, just overwhelming pressure from Congress. It was a true political saga.
And wow, what a complete flip-flop it was. I mean, just look at this timeline. In June 2024, Donald Trump is on the campaign trail promising he'll probably release the files. A year later, his own Justice Department says there's no client list, and Trump starts calling the whole thing a Democrat hoax. It actually took a massive bipartisan push from Congress to force a complete reversal and get the files released. And this slide really drives home just how intense that pressure got. A vote of 427 to 1 in the House. Look at that number. This wasn't a partisan thing. This was an overwhelming, almost unanimous demand for transparency that left the White House with basically no choice but to sign the bill into law.
Okay, so the law is passed, the files are finally coming out. But the big question on everyone's mind was, what are we actually going to find inside? And this is where what people expected to see and what was really there started to look very, very different.
And this right here is maybe the biggest misconception of all. This idea of a single smoking gun client list. It was a myth. The story was powerful because it was simple, a list of bad guys. But while the public was waiting for that tidy list, the FBI found something much messier. They found his contact books, flight logs, calendars, but no evidence of a formal list or the kind of trafficking ring people imagined.
So if it wasn't a list, then what the heck was in there? Well, it was a really bizarre and sprawling mix of stuff. You've got these ghosts of what could have been, like a draft indictment from 2007 that prosecutors just never followed through on. There are these chillingly corporate-looking diagrams of Epstein's inner circle. And then there are these surreal little details, like an employee describing fanning $100 bills on a table, right next to explosive international material, like allegations of UK government secrets being leaked straight to Epstein.
So who was actually mentioned the most? It wasn't some secret cabal. It was Epstein's own staff, his assistant, accountant, lawyer, mentioned hundreds of thousands of times. Other big names, like Donald Trump, pop up tens of thousands of times. But, and this is so important to understand, a mention is not an accusation. It just illustrates the insane scope of Epstein's network. And it's that very complexity that makes the next part of this story just so infuriating.
Yeah, because you'd think getting the files released would be the end of it, right? Nope. How they were actually put out into the world? Well, that turned into a disaster all on its own, with devastating consequences that make you question the competence of the very institutions handling this stuff.
So here's what went down. It's almost unbelievable. The Department of Justice releases these files as PDFs, right? And they have black bars over the sensitive stuff, redactions. But it turns out it was a shockingly simple technical mistake. Anyone could just copy the blacked out text and paste it into another document, instantly revealing everything the government was trying to hide. A total catastrophic failure.
And the consequences were immediate and just horrific. The full names of at least 43 victims were exposed, their home addresses became searchable, dozens of unredacted nude photos of young women were just released to the public. It was, as the victims' own lawyers put it, a complete and utter violation of their privacy, maybe the worst in U.S. history.
And really, this quote from attorney Jennifer Freeman just says it all. In the name of transparency, the whole process ended up protecting the powerful while re-traumatizing the very people who were supposed to be getting justice.
On top of all that, it turns out the release wasn't even complete. The DOJ said it found 6 million potentially relevant pages, but only released half of them, claiming the rest were just duplicates. But that decision, especially after the redaction disaster, just poured more fuel on the fire of suspicion about what was still being hidden.
But here's the thing. Even with this completely messed up release, the information that did get out had tangible, real-world consequences. It set off shockwaves that rippled across the entire globe, leading to new investigations, high-profile resignations, and even arrests. The impact was immediate and global. In Norway, for example, the former Prime Minister, Thorbjorn Jagland, was formally charged with aggravated corruption, and prosecutors directly pointed to information that came out of the files release.
Meanwhile, in the UK, something truly historic happened. A member of the royal family, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This was a direct result of the scrutiny from the files, and it was the first time a royal had been arrested in over 300 years.
And the fallout in Britain just kept coming. The prominent politician Peter Mandelson, whose name showed up in connection with those alleged leaks of government secrets, came under immense pressure and resigned from his party and his seat in the House of Lords.
And these weren't just a few isolated cases. We're talking about a national security advisor in Slovakia resigning, the head of a major UN partner organization in Sweden stepping down, police in multiple European countries launching brand new human trafficking investigations. United Nations itself looked at the evidence and suggested what the files were pointing to was a global criminal enterprise.
So, where does that leave us? The files are open. But after all the political battles, the data disasters, and the global fallout, this story is clearly far from over. And it forces us to ask a really tough question. After everything we now know, what does real accountability actually look like?